41 today.
Is this 2? Or just
Yeah,
41?
I got to do another one though. We're like a little behind on the
Why don't you
content.
do one with Swing since he's busting his ass
yeah.
with us in here? Like he's really busy and he's taking his time out right here. It's on record? Yep. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Cut that first part out. Whatever we said, I can't remember if we
Yeah,
said
let
anything
me
bad.
let's just get my quote.
What?
Oh, wow. Oh, are we going to do, we did relationships yesterday.
We did relationships with customers, yeah.
We should do resources.
Resources with customers? Yes?
So the next topic is resources, whatever pops up as the first subtopic.
Of resources.
Resources, yeah, yeah. Okay, good. All right.
Debt. Ugh.
Oh, wow. Is that the first one? Yeah, why not?
Dude, is this going to make my head hurt because I haven't done this yet?
I don't think so. Oh, okay. Where's my, what's the date right now?
That's a good question. 14th of November.
All right.
Ready to roll?
Yeah, 3, 2, 1. Hello, Culture Matters podcast. We are back again with another episode of the CEO Manual with co-host. About to introduce you. Before I do that,
Start
here's
with
a
a quote
just for this one. Plans are only good intentions unless they immediately degenerate into hard work. Peter Drucker, our co-host today, the one and only Eric Guy, the victor of all victors, better than the losers, the winner of all winners. Today we're going to talk about, it almost sounded like a wrestling match introduction there for a second.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Take it away, yeah. I chose that Drucker quote for you.
Okay. Is there a reason?
Well, really today, because I believe we're talking about resources.
Yes, so
one of the R's in the CEO.
We are on the CEO manual, as Jay said. We've been going over relationships, resources, and reasons. Today, we're going to jump into resources. The first subheading in the CEO manual under resources is all about the D word, which is debt, Jay. Right? So as we unpack this, I mean, just a quick rundown of resources. So we always do that for people. So go ahead and give them a quick rundown of resources and what that means, because there's 3 R's there.
Yeah, there are 3 R's: relationships, resources, and reasons. And I think the resources piece, like the other 2 R's, has a relationship with the reasons why we start the business and what it becomes, the relationships that the business consists of inside of the business, outside of the business, and potential. When we talk about resources, we're also having a conversation about resourcefulness.
Okay.
The resourcefulness of the CEO, the resourcefulness of the leader of leaders within the organization. And there are different components to being resourceful as the person at the top from a structure standpoint. There are aspects of that job that only that position can bring to the organization. There are also aspects of that job that the person at the top can't bring, that they rely on others to bring. For example, the higher we go up in the organization, I'm sure you could speak to this from your experience, the less informed we are of what's going on at the bottom of the org chart relative to how well we listen, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And so resources breaks down the different aspects, from debt to equity to the general spirit, right? The resourcefulness of the person in that seat. And so today I think we were going to talk about debt.
Yeah.
What was that question? What page are you on, by the way?
I am on page,
I
yeah.
feel like I'm back in school.
Yeah, right. Page 36 of the CEO manual. So if you're taking a look at the CEO manual, on page 36, resources, we're talking about debt.
Oh, here we
and
go.
we're focusing on each of these sub-characteristics under each one of these R's. So a couple of the questions here under debt, Jay. How much debt is currently associated with the company? I mean, some people probably don't even know. I know if you're like the whole idea of this manual from founder to CEO. We were just having this discussion out here aside of the studio, like with a couple founders. It's like, well, I shouldn't just be looking at my bank account for cash flow.
Well, in the beginning of the organization, it's not odd for that to happen, right? Because it's irrational, frankly. It's nuance, it's intuition, it's feeling,
I think I got it.
Well, there's no time to think, frankly, when all we can do is sell everybody on our vision. But once we have the vision and there are people that are relying on us, we better understand what's our debt, what's our equity, what's our intellectual property, some of the topics in here. And there are questions that break down these topics. Think about it. Intellectual property, it's what we know or what we think we know, what edge we think we have on the competition. If we talk about that, we might actually figure out, oh, we're not as strong as we think we were, or we think we are, rather. Right? But as it relates to debt, question number one, right? That's the one you want.
How much debt is? Well, I just kind of want to give folks an idea of what they're kind of getting into here, if they're going to eventually jump in to some of this, which I think you should to go through this. But that's the first question. The second question is, what are your personal views on debt? I really think that's important, especially as you bring people on. For me, I work with a lot of family companies, and a lot of my family's in my company. I've got, I married somebody that's very risk averse, and I'm a big risk taker. So that was one of those things, like something like that would have really helped early on, even just to have that discussion between the two of us. Okay.
Well, I want to speak to that for a second, because that's actually a really great thing.
Collective views you shared with your spouse.
Holy cow, it almost predicted it.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's part of what the CEO manual is about. You're laughing, but hopefully the audience is following us.
Yeah.
Like, it's written in a way, or the questions are formulated in an order that if we're alone, we can have a revelatory experience with where we're at in our business right now, and what's missing, what could improve, and what could be better. I'm going through it myself. I'm on page 47. It's all covered in answers, and I wrote the damn questions. It's helping me. I've got to believe in it before I share it with others. So, like, for example, my answer to number one, how much debt is currently associated with the company? 0 as of today. The debt leverage is our American Express, but we don't carry it. We pay it off every month. That's not a badge of honor, by the way. That actually shows now that could be a really bad thing if you have too much debt and you're literally about to go bankrupt because you haven't paid anybody. It's also a giant problem if you haven't taken up enough debt. What if you have the best idea since tennis felt? Like, if I really think, there's something here.
Right.
I'm not begging, borrowing, and stealing. That's a cliche.
Right.
Not stealing anything, but if you're not begging, borrowing, raising capital to share that idea, do I really believe in culture matters?
Yeah.
I'm living like, a king over here. I'm not taking any risks. I'm not living on the edge. The biggest risk right now? Death. This could be my last time I ever talk to anybody. And I'm living debt-free like Dave Ramsey over here. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, but I mean, the questions are good, especially if you're working with somebody else, because we all have different views on it. And if you don't talk about it, like for us, Jay, like for my wife and I, and a lot of the contractors we talk to as well. I mean, there's a lot of families that are represented in like Contractor school that we're both involved in. When you don't have that discussion, and that's not a one-time discussion either. Actually, I just had it again this weekend. We just talked about money, moving money around.
That's great.
Tax advantages for the end of the year. Are we taking advantage of everything? I get all hyped up on that. Like, I get really excited about it, and I want to move forward quick, make a decision. And she's pumping the brakes, and it's like, ooh, and I kind of get. We've learned over the years. I mean, it's taken us.
Oh,
taken.
she's important too.
Yeah. Yeah. I
What
don't know.
advice would you have for the audience on how to have those conversations with the spouse
Um,
so they actually happen?
yeah.
Would be the first.
We have
What
to
works?
we have to sit down. For me, it's not. Hey, we're gonna talk about this right now. That's what I used to do. And then I think for me, years ago when we switched to was in control of that. I was in control of it. Or I thought I was. Really was. I mean, when she took over control, like everything started to fall in place because she put the processes in place. She put those, the things in place. But we have to have having those discussions, and those discussions then with debt and profit and all that. I know we're focused on debt today, but any kind of that money discussion, even in our quarterlies with our key folks, we have that discussion. Where are we at? What are we going to take on? This is why we're taking this on. This is why we're paying for this. It's gotten a lot better over the years. Early on we have I think you almost have to do that to some degree. And I know people are going to argue either way. I was more comfortable with that.
Sure.
And then as we got along and we needed to take care of the debt, that's where she played a great role because I can sit outside and watch her every day. She at least takes one time a day. She's looking at statements and things like that. So for me, I can just do what I do best, which when I had to pay attention to all that, it gave me a lot of headache. She's just, here's what it is. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can afford. Here's all those things. Like if we're going to stretch, here's what we can. And so we're on the same page. And those conversations are extremely helpful, right? Because if you don't have that inside your company, even the comfort level. I mean, this is like a good. What are your personal views? What's your comfort level? How do you feel about it? I think it's good to have those discussions because if we don't, especially if we're family, especially if we're married. I mean, you know this, right? Biggest one of the biggest cause of divorce is typically money. Money issues. So if you're
Absolutely.
if you're in that with your spouse, if you're really in it to win it, I mean, when we look at the resources,
Well, that goes
of
for
the
if the money is lacking and abundant.
Absolutely.
Biggest. Oh man, biggest.
That's why I'm not trying to get not too off task on what we're talking about.
No,
you're
it's not the
definitely
tip of
right.
my tongue, but it's just so the audience follows.
Yeah.
Biggest cause of divorce is money, but it's not just a lack of money, abundance of cash. Because think about it, abundance of cash could be the number one it's like the number one recruiter for much younger women to wealthy, powerful men.
Yeah, well, just how to use it.
Patriarch all of a sudden comes into, liquidity event. Now there's enough money for the problems to be revealed in the marriage to where, hey, now I'm going to go my way, you're going to go your way, and now, both are dating people far, they're junior, right? We're staying together until half is enough. So it's not just... Yeah, you like that. This is the real stuff, though. This is what happens.
It is.
If some people are watching this, they're like, oh, I hope I'm successful someday. Man, you're not ready for that. I want to tell you, you're not ready for that. That success will destroy you. You're like a lottery winner. Unless we, you, me, we're all in this. Just because I'm saying you doesn't mean I'm not culpable or susceptible. We have to be careful, or we have to learn. Yeah, be careful, of course, but we have to learn as we go so we can burden that responsibility. Most entrepreneurs that make it, it's like the lottery. It's gone before they know it. They trusted the wrong advisors. They invested it poorly. All of a sudden, they're a venture capitalist. Private equities bought them out. They're on their second or third marriage, much younger. I'm being a little aggressive with that, but it's often much younger spouse that has absolutely no concept of money, and they're lying to themselves, they're lying to them. They're not listening to their advisors, their wealth managers. They haven't even fully finished the second liquidity event, the second event, because usually a lot of the money's wrapped up in the deal. They've already bought the next house, bought the new car, dating the next girlfriend, and before they know it, they're back to work. If you don't think, I mean, you've seen this.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the norm.
Yeah.
If you don't think that could happen to you, be careful who Nietzsche, be careful when staring into the abyss.
Yeah.
That the abyss doesn't
stare
stare back
back.
into you, baby. This is fun. Yeah, this is fun. We should do this again.
Yeah.
But the CEO manual is about self-awareness.
Yeah.
And strategy. So I'm going to share my.
Sure,
I don't
absolutely.
even remember what I wrote.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a risk
dig
right
into-
now.
Yeah,
Could
you've
be-
taken a big risk.
It could be rated R over here. So my views are that debt is leverage, or it is. I can't even read my own handwriting. I think it says, it's compressed time. It increases. Yeah, it increases return because it is time. By the way, I don't know if any of this makes any sense. I'm just reading what I wrote. Debt creates higher return because it speeds up time.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to stop you real quick. What Jay's reading off, folks, is actually what he wrote, right? When you go through the manual, obviously.
This is what I wrote. Thanks for making it.
Yeah.
These are my notes.
So that's what he wrote in the manual as he went through it, as you would go through it.
Yeah, it's
it
my answer.
Doesn't mean there's a right or wrong answer. It's just that those are things that he's thinking about, and a lot of times we don't. My point was, Jay, we don't get them down. We don't work with our other business partners to discuss these things, and then this kind of just stays out there, and we don't know how to articulate it, how to discuss it, how to communicate with it, and then it leads to issues and problems because it's just like, well, one person sees it one way, another person sees it another, and then you're not moving the business forward because you're still stuck on things like that. So when you go through this, obviously, you're here to help them with that.
You're doing a great job, better than me. The question was, what are your personal views on debt? I should say that. That's the question that I'm answering for me. I'm not above this process just because I wrote these questions after 10 years of working in the field and studying it, trying to make this simplified. All these other entrepreneurs watching the ups and downs. I'm not above this process. I'm doing it myself. We have our own business that I could easily be susceptible, of course, to the same. This is like gravity. We're trying. This is a scientific method we're all a part of right now, and so part of the argument of the resources piece is understanding debt and equity, intellectual property is a part of the job of the CEO. For a founder, we're in the and the founder doesn't have to be always been. The business has been around for 6 months. The spirit of the founder could be 50 years. It's a distinction between the journey to chief executive officer. And some of the things we have to learn to be a chief executive officer would be debt, equity, intellectual property. And you don't have to learn it. You may not want to learn it. You may want to sell your business. You may want to abdicate responsibility and see how far that gets you.
Yeah, let me just give you an example because I just started working with a company 2 years ago, and their founder, very entrepreneurial, man, a guy I would say he's risky. He's risky for me, and I like to take risks. But his view of debt versus the people on his team, and there was a huge lack of communication, and the other thing is nobody said anything to him. So they just allowed it to keep going and going and going and going. So now, 2 years ago, they're looking at $3-4 million worth of debt. Now, I mean, we've turned things around, but we had to take a look at all that and had to pump the brakes and put kind of the kibosh on some of the things he was doing. Just give him a governor, right? Which was other people on the leadership team, and that turned things around because they were backwards for the longest time, and now they're running a 3-to-1 ratio on their accounts receivable, accounts payable, bringing in some profit. They still have the debt, but we had to rework all that. To your point, right? Now it's moving. It can't have that founder mentality anymore, where we're just like, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Well,
Yep.
a lot of those weren't a good idea. They bought a $900,000 piece of machinery, at 12% interest. And the nut on that every month is almost $30,000. You've got to produce a lot inside of your factory to make up for that payment, right? Now, he didn't do the due diligence to see if it worked out. He just saw an opportunity. It was a good opportunity if it was enough product coming in, but it wasn't. So, now they're...
It's a great example. Companies grow their way out of business every day.
And let me say this, guy's very intelligent. Very intelligent.
So was Karl Marx.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't met, a
But
lot
I
of
mean,
smart
just,
people.
he knew what he was doing in the business. Just when it comes to things like this, he got the company going, but he didn't do the necessary steps.
You said something that's really important, I think, about how the other people maybe couldn't stop him. Spoke to what we call the yes person effect.
Mm-hmm.
The yes person effect. And it's definitely not about smarts. It's about breakdown and communication. Because no one's smart enough to see around every corner or their intellect can't rise above our emotions. If we're making an emotional decision, our intellect's wrapped up in it, and we can't get at, that's part of being an individual. So we need other people to give us feedback, and we need to be able to hear them. I just wanted to speak.
Yeah.
I was taking a course last night on Winston Churchill. Shout out to the Peterson Academy, lecture 5. Yeah, it's going to bother me. But it was about Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill wanted no men. He wanted people around him to tell him no. And that was one of the core concepts of his leadership in the World War II.
Mm-hmm.
He actually, his chiefs of staff, if they all went against him, he would not go through with it. He had a bad experience with he had a bad experience not listening to anyone's opinion. And I got an 80, so don't think I know everything. I didn't get, I got a B on this last test on Churchill, so I cannot remember. This is probably why I got a B. I can't remember the battle, but he didn't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
And it taught him a lesson. And so after that, he surrounded himself by, instead of yes men, no men. And so the intellect isn't all we need. We need to be able to hear other people's voices. And as I'll tell you, that's not easy to do.
No, not at all. It's easy to say, not easy to do.
Yeah, the more I talk about it, the worse I get at it. The more I'll tell you, there's something to that. One other thing I want your opinion on this. Debt without equal intellectual property. So we know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. We know why, and we know how. So we've talked.
Mm-hmm.
So debt without equal intellectual property, responsibility. We're working. I can't take out a bunch of debt and then go on vacation for 6 months.
Right.
Because the clock's ticking. And buy-in. Okay, we're all mowing and rowing in the same direction. Then the debt can speed things up. But how often do we see people take on debt?
Yeah.
As a way to just take it off the brakes, or to cash out and spend money on themselves, or
Get comfortable.
get comfortable. What do you think? What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it happens a lot. I think if you're looking at that as a resource, a debt as a resource, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to act? Or are we going to take responsibility in the right direction? Do we have a plan moving forward? Not just, hey, let's go acquire debt to just because, right? or even if it's something shiny, like my story with the company, like that doesn't work. You have to have I think you need to be proactive, have a plan, move forward. What are we going to do? How are we going to take responsibility? How am I going to take responsibility? You know, whatever role I'm sitting in, like if I'm that founder, you know, am I going to do that? And if I'm going to move, if you are going to move to a real CEO, like you're going to have to answer these questions. Like you can't just keep doing that if you're going to get your company bigger. That's why this is set up, right? That's why you set this up, like to help people understand what's going on, have that self-awareness of what's going on. If I'm a founder here and I do want to scale my company, what are the things that I need to do? What are the things that I need to communicate? What are the things that I need to ask people?
The teacher in me feels very bad knowing especially when I find out if I ask some questions and get to know someone, they could have kept their company had they just unlearned a couple things and learned new things.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could have sold not only at a higher price, but a better structure. They could have got a better deal because another firm that may not necessarily have been smarter than them innately, but had perspective they didn't have, experience they didn't have, aperture they didn't, resources they didn't, was able to structure a deal where they were keeping their risk as low as possible. So that entrepreneur got as way less upfront, and the likelihood of them getting the whole enchilada was way low because their partner, air quotes, withheld information out of their own risk aversion to just make sure that they weren't getting in bed with the wrong or an unready partner. And now they end up, winning. And the entrepreneur thought they got, let's just use arbitrary, $10 million for the business.
Mm-hmm.
But they really only got 3 when all was said and done. Because, they didn't structure it properly. They didn't do enough due diligence themselves. They weren't able to live up to standard. They got fired from their own damn business. Like, that's what hurts my heart as a teacher. Like, it's like, I believe that you could learn and I want to believe in people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not everybody wants to learn or wants to keep their company, and that's fine. But get educated on how to get it off your personal balance sheet, so that you come out of it at the highest and everybody wins. Like the company that, for example, partners with that seller. I would say, I don't like to try to not speak in absolute. I'm sure most give them the benefit of the doubt. They want the best possible partner. There's more than enough to go around.
Mm-hmm.
When we're succeeding, there's more than enough success to go around. I mean, that's one of the awesome things about growth is like a rising tide lifts all boats. So you don't have to come out the biggest loser in that. And so the manual purpose is to educate and alleviate the anxiety of the unknown.
Good. Let's end there. Any last thoughts?
I thought we were doing this all night. We should do a 24-hour version. What do you think? How about New Year's Eve? Yeah, that was my goal. I would do 24-hour version.
Straight through.
Why not?
All right. Last thoughts on
Did we
this
turn the
piece?
camera on?
Yeah.
Okay. There we are.
Yes.
In lights.
All right. Any last thoughts?
Any last words? I just want to give a shout out to my co-host here. You've done such a great job. Always bring out the best, and I think it exemplifies the value of having the right people around you.
Yep.
And live in the purpose of the CEO manual. As Drucker said, I already forgot the quote, but I'm pretty sure, as Drucker says, it's all a bunch of hogwash if you don't put it into action.
Yep.
So we'll see you next time, and hopefully you get something done. I can tell you, based on the last video we did, I'm on page 47 of the CEO manual, and because I shamed myself last recording and I said how I didn't do anything, this morning, here's the proof.
Look at that.
What's that say?
4:08 p.m.
Or no, I'm sorry. That's the wrong page. Gosh.
There it is, 8:40 a.m.
Yep. November 14th, 2024 at 8:40 a.m. I worked on resourcefulness on page 47. The question was, in what ways are you currently least resourceful as it relates to your business? And I answered, I'm already answers deep. I am basically just I am letting everyone down. And I'm not even done. I had to take a break. I was sweating.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good, Jay. Until next time, folks, tune in for more.
Oh, we're okay. I should shut up. Tune in for more. See you next time. I was gonna give you a shout and say, hey, where can people follow Eric? But I'll work on the ending.
Yeah.
Although these are funny endings too. We should keep going. Even use this. We're still trying to figure it out. Yeah.